All right, welcome back to Sunday Nation here. I'm Bankole Thompson. But let me begin by saying Merry Christmas and Happy Yuletide to all of you who are watching us from your living room and, of course, from your sitting room as you enjoy this holiday. This is also the season of giving. It is a season to reflect on organizations that have been in the trenches helping to render what we call the public good. Joining me now is Helen Hicks. She's the president and CEO of the Macomb County Habitat for Humanity. Thank you so much for being here, and Merry Christmas.
Well, Merry Christmas to you, and thank you for having me.
All right. I want to begin with the genesis of Habitat for Humanity. Given, you know, the state of affairs in the country and just people being in need, we see more and more people in need. I want you to talk about Habitat for Humanity in Macomb County, how it was set up when you came on board.
Well, I've been at Habitat in Macomb County for 10 years. When I arrived, they were doing great work, but they were doing great work for people who lived in Macomb County.
Right.
And so I started asking a lot of questions. I actually invited an attorney to come in and sort of listen to what was happening on the committees that made the decisions about who would come into the program and who wouldn't. And, you know, I remember her pulling me aside and her saying to me, Helen, you have to disband that committee because some laws are actually being broken here. And anytime you're only selling homes, because you know that Habitat doesn't give away homes, we help people to buy homes, and you're excluding people in that process, then you're breaking the law. And so the committee was disbanded. Things changed overnight. And now we're on track. We're helping people from all different communities, and people who don't look necessarily just like me.
So at the time of your arrival, Habitat for Humanity in Macomb County was not operating with an inclusive vision.
I mean, I'm not sure it was purposeful, you know. I think sometimes you learn things and you don't know how to unlearn them until somebody sort of slaps you in the face.
Right.
So, you know, a lot of the folks on that committee came from a different generation.
Okay.
And I'm not making an excuse for them because I immediately changed the behavior.
Right.
But, you know, you really need a leader to put you on the right track.
Right.
And I see that now more and more in Macomb County. We have some fabulous leaders there who are helping to do that.
Okay. So obviously underscores the importance of why change at the top is important. And, you know, the culture at the top can basically direct how the organization moves forward.
Always, yes.
So looking at Habitat for Humanity in Macomb County now, 10 years ago when you arrived, what do you see?
Well, I mean, the county has been very good to us. I've built some strong relationships along with my team, with the county folks, Mark Hackle, and so on and so forth. What we see now is a lot of dollars available so that we can build homes and rehab homes, and we take advantage of that as much as possible. So we've found that building relationships in the community have really helped us to bring those dollars in, and then it becomes our job to reach out to the community, and thank you for having me here because you're community. You know, to really teach them, what does Habitat do? What are the myths? How can we dispel those? And how can we really bring people from a place of poverty or even sometimes just not knowing, being not educated in things like credit scores and the importance of that and how that can affect, you know, whether or not you are able to pursue a home. And so that's what we've been doing really ardently in the last, I would say, 9 years.
Yeah, I want to talk about COVID, and you know, I've been using this word a lot lately, our resurrection from COVID. Certainly that could be debated, but I strongly feel that we've resurrected. We are resurrecting from COVID, and organizations like Habitat for Humanity and others that are in the public space, you know, helping underprivileged communities, underserved communities, you know, and so forth. Some have taken a lot of hit in terms of financial support, you know, donor relations, and the kinds of resources you would have gotten before COVID. I'm just curious, though, in terms of where Habitat for Humanity in Macomb County has stood, or how has it been able to withstand the adverse impact of the pandemic here?
Well, I'll be honest with you, it was a scary time.
Right.
We had to shut our restores temporarily. I had to lay off a lot of staff. Unfortunately, they were only off for a few weeks.
Right.
We were able to bring them all back.
Okay.
It had to do with the two people at the top of the organization reaching out to donors my chief operating officer and myself spending every waking moment reaching out to those donors and those volunteers and saying, please don't forget us, because if you do, we're going to go under.
Yeah.
And they all stepped up, every single one of them, in ways that you couldn't even imagine.
Right.
Our board, for example, one gentleman on our board, he normally will give quite a bit of money,
right.
but he gave double,
right.
and that was really the case with most of the board members and the community. They rallied around us. They realized the importance of what Macomb County Habitat and all habitats do.
Yeah.
And they kept us going. But then I want to say this: we have creative people. So, for example, we knew the restores were very helpful to people. Just imagine if your washing machine gave out, and you're a low-income person, and you can't go to the big box stores to get a machine.
Yeah.
They're used to coming to Habitat. So if our doors were closed for too long, they were not going to be able to wash those clothes. Or if you're a foster dad, like we would receive calls, and they were trying to get a twin bed so that they could have their, that sort of thing. We were able to open those stores in a creative manner. Our chief operating officer created an online store platform so that you could just go on there and punch in what you need, and we would bring it to the curb. But we really weren't closed too long. We made every effort to reopen fairly quickly.
That's interesting. So you're basically even the interplay of your transition to digital.
Yes.
Providing services through a digital communication means.
And that service is still available. We would never have created that had it not been for COVID.
Yeah.
And while it's not generating as much, of course, as the revenue coming out of the 2 restores that we have, which actually represents 54% of all of our money.
Right.
We still have that platform, and people use it.
Right. So, and I know you don't have all the answers to the world's problems, and I think every leader of an organization that that serves humanity, community can attest to that. But I'm just curious, though, in terms of your take on when we look around now, COVID has made racial disparity more pronounced. It existed, but perhaps we've not seen it in a more pronounced way. Than with the advent of COVID. It has shown how, it has shown us, perhaps it's almost like unveiling, a veil of this mass underclass of people that sometimes we've ignored and not looked after, or perhaps just not paid attention to. I'm curious in terms of your take here, how, in a world that we live in now with more people in need and COVID showing this adverse impact about just the disparities that exist, how significant it is it for Habitat for Humanity in Macomb to be able to do what it does?
So I can't speak to the other habitats. I feel that they all do great work. But in terms of what you just said, I feel like we're really making a concerted effort here.
Right.
We recently received Macomb County's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Award for the many things that we're trying to do. So, we welcome anybody to come in, and we take time, we sit with folks, and we say to them, here's where you're at right now. And, in order for you to get to this goal, these are the 6 things that you need to do. And we're going to hold your hand through that whole process. So I'm about the task of hiring people who are very organized, but also have that warm, welcoming and open-minded attitude that I think we have to have. So it comes down to hiring. Who do we hire? What does the face of our organization look like overall? Are we only hiring folks that look a lot like me, or are we hiring people from many different backgrounds? And who are we actually helping? Are we only helping this particular segment of people, or are we helping people from all over the community, including single men, not just single women, what are we doing? And so we are actively looking for that sort of opportunity to serve, and we really don't serve anybody who isn't extremely low income. And that's where we can see people making the biggest leaps in their lives. Once they finally get to the point, and sometimes it takes years, but when they get to that point where they are homeowners, their whole world changes. They have wealth because of the equity in their home. And we are sure to give them that equity by reaching out and offering them large down payment assistance so that when they walk in the door, they may have $30,000 in equity already. Okay? And it takes the financial strain off of them because their payments are often hundreds and hundreds of dollars less than what they were paying in rent.
Right.
So we just make concerted efforts, and that's what we're really doing.
So overall, when you look at your mission and the service that you deliver in Macomb County, what do you see as the biggest challenge here?
Well, I do think educating the community is a big piece of it. You know, a lot of people, like recently, and I think you were at the event. You were at the event. Thank you for being there. You know, occasionally someone who is a legal immigrant or refugee or asylee will reach out. And you know, often they've had so many doors shut in their face just because of the attitude, the permeating attitude in our world, really. So we won't have any of that. You know, if they're here legally, we're going to help them. You know, and we'll probably try and even refer the ones that are not here legally to get some other help that could be available out there. But we actively are doing that, and I think that the community needs to understand more.
So do you feel that Macomb County has meant different things to a lot of people?
Yeah.
And for us here in Detroit, has a different meaning.
Yes.
And it's not a pretty image. It's not a pretty definition. Do you feel that Habitat for Humanity in Macomb County is a shining light on a hill for Macomb?
Wow. I mean, my staff might not call it a shining light, especially at
this is the Christmas season, so I'm using a biblical inference here, but
I love that.
Yes.
Yes, I think in some ways you could reference us as such. But we're a shining light that needs a lot more support.
Right.
You know, and I don't mean, we do need financial support. That's not what this is about, though, today. I think the conversation is more about awareness and dispelling myths and having people just come and sit and learn. You know, so often people assume things that are not necessarily true. And but I think the secret to all of it is building relationships. And there are a few of us that our natural inclination is to do that anyway, but our role is to do that. And by reaching out to people who may in fact have had those thoughts or maybe narrow-minded you know, thoughts, that we are able to slowly creep into their hearts and into their souls, and we're able to change the way that they think. And it's not an overnight thing. Sometimes it is, but it's usually not. It's just sort of a constant effort, you know, to show them that there's a different side to things than they may think.
What does it take for you personally to be able to be involved in this? And I say this against the backdrop, and I think I shared this story with you. My late friend Eleanor Jositis, who co-founded Focus Hope with the late Father Cunningham, and Eleanor Jositis and I used to go to lunch once a month at La Dolce Vita on Woodward and 7 Mile.
My favorite.
Yeah, and she will tell me stories about, you know, her decision to move from the suburbs into Detroit, her home being firebombed, and just this commitment to service, to help humanity, irrespective of whether the color of your skin is white, black, brown, and green, and someone who really not only talk the talk, but walk the walk here, and at great personal challenge and sacrifice. Where you are in Macomb County, again, suddenly, you know, has different meanings to a lot of people around here. There are people who are watching us, wow, we didn't know Habitat for Humanity is in Macomb County, because their view of Macomb is different, though. Let me ask you, at what great personal sacrifice have you been able to change the way things are done at the Macomb County Habitat for Humanity level?
So I think, you know, I will say that my parents back in the day, they're both passed on now, but they instilled in me some ethics about treating all people equally, and they meant that.
Right.
And, you know, I was able to then move on in my life. I obviously bruised my knees a few times, got up and moved on. But, you know, my husband is African American. We were treated horribly by many people in our own families, and by some folks in the community, just by being in an interracial marriage. Okay, but that actually made us stronger for some reason. We then reached out and adopted some kids that, you know, our family, I always say, looks like the United Nation. You know, we have 10 children. There's different hues, different faces. Those were struggles, you know, and it was even hard, like going shopping. We lived in Detroit for many, many years, and the only reason we moved was we were seeking a special needs school for one of our handicapped children. And I love Detroit. Oh my gosh. But anyway, you know, I remember being in a line in a grocery store and having a woman come up to me and say, "Why are you with that black baby?" Like literally it happened to be an African American woman. So there is that side of it as well. But I think it's called perseverance. You know, we've pushed through all of that. We try to be an example in our personal lives and in our professional lives, and that's all we can hope for.
Quickly look into the future, 2023. What do we expect? What should we look forward to with Habitat for Humanity?
Well, a lot more lunches with a lot more interesting people, probably in and outside of Macomb County, so that we can build more relationships.
Right.
Working closely with East Point, who is a very strong partner, and renovating a lot of homes.
Okay.
And being even more welcoming to the community. You know, anybody who wants to come and sit with me, talk with me, from every possible walk of life, I'm there for them, and so are my staff.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm sure
here.
we'll be talking more. Helen Hicks is the president and CEO of the Macomb County Habitat for Humanity. The Macomb County Habitat for Humanity, of course, a shining light on a hill in the city, in the county of Macomb. Yes, yes. And I think a lot of people watching this understand what I'm talking about. We'll be right back with more on Sunday Nation. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere.